Hi, Scott.
Hello.
Hi, Scott. How you doing?
Hey, Jeff. Good. How are you?
Oh, we can't hear him. I got it. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. We had the speakers down, so we get feedback.
One thing I'm noticing is that there is no host for this meeting. Were you going to set up breakout rooms?
No breakout rooms.
Okay. It's probably okay then. I don't know the host code. I don't think Natalie will be here.
I think that's fine, as long as we can get access to the recording. But
Yeah.
can someone record it? Is it, it is being recorded?
Yeah, we just want to use the recording for training purposes for our
Okay.
users later on. So all we really want is the recording. I don't think it's necessary that we have.
I don't think I can record without a host. So let me see if Natalie sent me that code.
It says it's recording already, so as long as somebody can get access to it.
Oh, okay. Well, people will have a really fun time listening to us talk about how to record when it's already recording.
Magic of video editing.
Hey, Charlie.
Hey, how's it going, Scott?
Pretty good. So I think that Karen and Jeff and Joe are all in the same space, right?
We are all in the same space. We are all Karen Didinsky today.
All right.
All right, so how would you like to do this? I saw you guys already have your slide and already shared. Do you just want to kickstart and just go for it? Or usually for our design safe ones, we do a quick little intro and, welcome all y'all to Design Safe and give a little bit of background and chat. Or do you want to just go with what you have right now? And introduce yourself?
Yeah, you can do a little intro. That's perfectly fine. Do you want us to stop sharing or you
Yeah,
want...
then I'll go and share my screen and then we'll start from there.
Okay.
Charlie, you're the host now. Do you want to make Karen the co-host?
Sure thing. Make sure I have this. All right, so my screen should be shared now.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I'll make you all the host. So I haven't been in my office giving a design safe webinar in a long time. I'm getting used to the setup here still. All right, all should be set.
Perfect.
It is actually kind of chilly in Austin today. I guess I was going to say unseasonably so, but I think it's seasonable.
Well, it's, like 75 and sunny here in Seattle.
Is it really 75 and sunny? Nice.
No.
Oh.
No, it's pretty typical Seattle January day. It's probably like 42 and gray.
And
Yeah.
misting a little bit all the time.
Misting a little bit, not right now, but the ground is wet, so it was misting at some point.
Yeah. LA may be ahead of Seattle in terms of rainfall so far this year. I think we've had like a foot or something.
Hopefully you've been okay, Scott.
Oh yeah. No, we're fine.
So Scott, is this part of the big giant flooding thing that California was predicted to have in from Design Safe a few years ago? Last year, I think it was.
Oh, that's right. There was that big paper in Nature and the article in the New York Times.
Right.
Other than you have to share after Charles.
I'm not sure if you knew that or not, but that study was published on Design Safe. That's where they got it.
I know. Pretty cool.
I think
You're
it
a little
was
dark.
Maria that
Maybe a little
chased
closer.
down that rabbit hole and found it.
Oh, where is
It's pretty cool. They published it with Design Safe and then even, none of us even knew about it, right? They
It
just
was on,
used it.
right?
Yeah, cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure if everybody else, I'm sure actually, since this is not this webinar, they can hear us here. A couple years ago, or actually, I think it was last year, a New York Times had a front page article on the Great Flood that was going to be hitting California due to climate change. And one of our data curators here at TAC took it upon herself to kind of see where that article came from. And the New York Times had posted a reference to Nature. And then when they looked at Nature, they saw a reference to a DOI that pointed to a data set that was published on DesignSafe. So DesignSafe made the New York Times. Right.
So should we get started with the intro? I would just say
we are
you see
looking
Joe
at
Wortman in the Karen
3:31.
Didinsky window, and then he
Yeah.
has a Joe Wortman window too.
So, are we already recording is what I was about to say.
It's been recording the whole
Okay.
time.
Perfect.
So we'll be
Fantastic.
good.
All right. Hey, greetings, everyone. Sorry, we just have a little casual intro and a casual conversation. I hope you all don't mind engaging in that. But yeah, welcome to one of our DesignSafe webinars. I think the first one of 2023. I am Charlie Day. I am the Director of Training and Professional Development here at the Texas Advanced Computing Center in Austin, Texas. I'm also the training lead on DesignSafe. I want to give you guys a quick little rundown on what's going on in DesignSafe right now. We are still taking nominations for the Dataset Awards every year. There are like 3 dataset awardees from DesignSafe that if you've published your data on DesignSafe, feel free to check out, go to designsafe-ci.org, check out the news story and nominate somebody with their data set. And then we will publish that data set. We will give you all, you will have a webinar to discuss it with the DesignSafe community and a lot of fun accolades of like a front page story and all that other fun stuff as well. So thank you all for joining us on this afternoon. And oops, make sure I got the right window clicked. There we go. We do appreciate all your feedback. Here is a QR code for you to go ahead and scan. So the surveys that we get help us plan out more of these webinars for you. It also helps us understand how well DesignSafe has been moving forward and gives us ideas for future webinars and future features on DesignSafe. So please go ahead and scan that. We'll also show that at the end of today's webinar as well. So today's webinar is using the HazMapper tool to visualize and interrogate natural hazards and using reconnaissance data. With us today, we have Karen Didinsky. She has an MS in geospatial data science from Penn State, and she's a data processing specialist at the University of Washington and for the Rapid headquarters. We also have Jeffrey Berman. Jeffrey Berman is a professor in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at the University of Washington. The research is in structural and earthquake engineering, and he serves as one of the Rapid Facilities Operations Directors. And then we also have Joseph Wartman. Joe is a professor in the Department of Civil Engineering at the University of Washington, and his research is in geotechnical engineering. And he serves as Rapid's Facilities Director and has led numerous of the natural hazard reconnaissance missions. So the 3 of them will get together today and talk to you about the HazMapper tool. DesignSafe and our partner, the Rapid Facility, have been building this set of tools to kind of improve the field collection. And we've been modifying the HazMapper tool in DesignSafe to incorporate all the features that the Rapid Facility requires and needs. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to the Rapid Facility folks, and they could tell us how they've been using HazMapper for their rapid deployments. So, hey, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate all the work you've all done. And yeah, and thank you for participating in today's webinar. So with that, I'm going to hand over control to you all.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. And Scott, thank you for coordinating this today, and welcome to the webinar. I'm going to begin. I'm Joe Wortman. I'm going to hand this off in a few minutes to Jeff Berman, and then Karen is going to be spending the rest of the afternoon with us and stepping through the nuts and bolts of HazMapper. And I want to just quickly introduce the I want to quickly introduce some of the team who is here, who's behind the scenes, who are not going to be presenting, but they are going to be here to help answer questions. And so if you have questions, we would invite you to offer those into the chat. We will respond to you, and we will also collect the questions, and we will issue the questions and the answers in a FAQ format afterwards, and we'll send that out to all of the participants. And I'll also note that this webinar is being recorded and archived. And so if at any point during the webinar, if you fall behind or if you want to go back and see something, know that you'll have the ability to do so, because this will be posted up onto DesignSafe. A quick introduction to some of those who are here behind the scenes. This is one of our team photos from our training event that I'm going to talk about in just a couple of minutes. This is Jacqueline on our left, Andrew, Karen, who we just introduced, Mike Grilio, myself. Troy Tanner is our IT director, and he's developed a RAP that I'll tell you a little bit about. And Laura Lowe's is one of our structural engineering specialists. Jeff Berman is his photo is in the upper right. Again, I'm going to hand this over to Jeff. And I also want to acknowledge Ian Park and Nathan Franklin, who are here, who have been major contributors to developing HazMapper. So we are a part of a network, as everyone knows, part of the NERI network. And really, there are three different elements of the NERI network that are involved in what we're going to be talking about today. Obviously, this has been developed by DesignSafe. We've been working very closely in collaboration with them at the Rapid facility. And a lot of the users of HazMapper are the EERs that fall under the umbrella of Converge, which is based at the University of Colorado. Just a couple words on the Rapid facility. We're really going to focus today on HazMapper, but I want to tell you a little bit about how we get data into HazMapper and what we do as a facility. It's our mission at the Rapid facility to support research by providing investigators with the instrumentation, the software, and the support services needed to collect, to process, and to analyze perishable data from natural hazard events and from disasters. We have quite a bit of instrumentation. We have 300 instruments. We have duplicates of some instruments. So we have 100 unique instruments in our portfolio, everything from bathymetric survey vessels to lots of laser scanners, drones, street view, seismometers, accelerometers. And we also develop software RAP that I'll spend a couple of minutes on telling you about. We also do training, and I'll talk to you about those training opportunities as well. On a day-to-day or week-to-week basis, there are a lot of activities we engage in. Of course, we keep the equipment ready to go on short notice, but what we're going to address today is we facilitate the widespread use of this collected data through the systematic processing, visualization, and publication in collaboration with DesignSafe. And we also engage in training activities such as this webinar. Just a little bit on what we do and what we don't do as a facility. We provide the equipment, we maintain it, we make sure it's ready for you when you need it. We provide staff to assist you anywhere along the way. We can go to the field with you. We can work with you remotely. It really is very much on a project-by-project basis what works best for you. We'll help you with proposal preparation and approaching NSF. We'll also provide basic logistics support, especially when we try to get instruments overseas. What we don't do is we don't coordinate reconnaissance missions. We don't set your scientific objectives. We support your science rather than drive it. And we don't provide the funding for reconnaissance missions. We have really ramped up our post-event support, which is another kind of relatively new feature of the facility. And that includes some small in-person group trainings. This is a photo of one. This is Erica Fisher shown on the right, and along with some others. And we're going to be featuring Erica's data set today. And that happened at Rapid headquarters. We also have people who come in or are in residence. This is Mike Gardner, a photo on the right. He's working with Karen. That was taken this summer on processing some multispectral data. It's really easy to access the Rapid facility. Go to our website. There's a simple button you push on requesting equipment. We will get back in touch with you very quickly, typically by phone, find out your scientific objectives, match you up with the equipment, and make sure you're on your way. So all of that information is available on our website. As I mentioned, we also develop software. We've developed the mobile software package RAP that's available for iPhones and for iPads. It's soon going to be coming out in an Android version. There's a lot of different things that RAP can do and collect. It can help guide your missions. It can collect data in the field, photos, videos, and now advanced questionnaires. It's hardwired in a sense into RAP. And really what I want to note in this kind of connection with DesignSafe is that it is end-to-end encrypted. So any kind of information you might collect with personally identifiable information on individuals gets protected from when you collect it to when it goes into DesignSafe because of that end-to-end encryption. This is the new advanced questionnaires feature, which allows you to develop your own surveys, and they could be damage surveys, they could be surveys to support social scientists. So a wide range of how you can use these. You edit the surveys, you make this in our RAP server, you load it onto the instrument, and you can take it out into the field. So this is a photo that I was walking through Miami after attending a workshop at the Wall of Wind, and I saw this mural and I said, wow, this is really how we work with DesignSafe. And this is really a dated photo at this point, because at the outset, we were very much plugged into DesignSafe. We had great affinity for each other, at least we did for DesignSafe. I assume they did for us as well. But we were very much collecting data and plugging it into DesignSafe. And in the last several years, that interaction has really matured quite a bit and evolved and into what we're going to be talking about today, HazMapper. And that really serves as the platform, as the intermediary between the Rapid facility and DesignSafe, and enables us to put data into DesignSafe and then that data to be interrogated. And so there's a lot of back and forth interactions. And so again, this is really quite an advancement because all of this happens in the cloud. You don't have to download the data, process it on your desktop. It all happens within this HazMapper platform. And I commend DesignSafe. They've made a really significant investment in bringing this forward. And it's we meet with them every month during the process of developing this. And it's really, as you're going to see, a very powerful tool. I think one of the things that it has enabled is our vision of this, of how data should be collected and analyzed. This is just a short excerpt of our Rapid Facility Science Plan that talks about acquiring and integrating data across scales, across time scales, across geospatial scales, and across social scales. And HazMapper now enables us to agglomerate this data into a single platform and to begin to synthesize data sets from multiple instruments and across multiple disciplines. And so this really does a lot to help achieve this larger scientific vision of where we hope to go as a reconnaissance community. There's a lot of different things you can do, and I'm just going to give you two quick examples of what you can do with HazMapper. You can do a RAP building damage survey, and if there's been a concurrent street view survey done, you can now access that within HazMapper using the platform of Mapillary, which is integrated or connected through HazMapper, and you can check your surveys on an address by address basis because this is all geo-referenced, and that can happen entirely in the cloud. Another example is you can go back to pre-existing data sets, such as that from the Hokkaido earthquake, where a gear reconnaissance team took something on the order of about 60 LiDAR surveys, fused them into a single high-resolution model that is really an extraordinary soil structure interaction data set that will enable you to measure to centimeter scale resolution, liquefaction-induced ground deformation, and consequent effect on structure. And so again, that can happen entirely in HazMapper using the Potree interface that you're going to learn about today. I'm going to just quickly note that if you're interested, we have a 4-day intensive workshop for the facility. It's going to be offered the 3rd week of July, as it is every year. And more information about that is available on our website. And I'm going to hand this over to Jeff, who's going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to do today in our agenda.
Excellent. Thanks, Joe. As Scott said, my name is Jeff Berman. I'm the operations director for the Rapid facility. So I'll talk quickly about the agenda for this webinar and some of the data sets that we're going to be looking at. So our first piece that we're going to talk about is data curation and publishing, and some of what the Rapid's kind of workflow looks like, moving from the field to publication of data sets. And then we're going to pick up with Karen and interactive activities, which we do highly recommend following along with, but using a mouse, because we will have some manipulation and exploring 3D point clouds in Potree, and a mouse is helpful for doing that. And then we're going to have kind of a Q&A session after all of this, where we will answer questions. I do encourage you along the way to ask questions in the chat. We have lots of people monitoring the chat for any questions that may come up. These are folks that are the Rapid staff Joe mentioned, and some DesignSafe staff as well. Okay, so data curation and publication, extremely important to be able to for reconnaissance data to have the necessary impact that we want it to have, that Joe highlighted. We need to be proactive in curation and publication. To do that, DesignSafe has helped us. They have 5 data models, one for experimental data, one for simulation data, one for hybrid simulation data, and the one we'll talk about today is for field research. That's where all of our reconnaissance data ends up first. And this data model was developed by DesignSafe in collaboration with us, the Rapid facility, and with Converge. And the idea with these data models is to have some commonalities between the way data sets get published, the way the metadata gets organized and attached, so that the data sets are more useful down the road and have more impact in terms of data reuse down the road, while also making sure that the data models are not so constraining that it takes researchers a really long time to kind of add all of the necessary metadata and organize it and think about all the file types and be very restrictive. So the idea with the data models is that they're flexible enough to be simple for researchers to use, but also make sure that the data has enough structure that it can be more easily reused in the future. And I'll encourage you to read more about all the different data models that are available at the DesignSafe user guides, which are really great and linked there. So I want to walk you through the process of kind of what Rapid does in terms of kind of getting the data, helping our users get data from the field all the way to publication. So first, we help you with field work. We collect data using our state-of-the-art equipment and data collection methods. You can see our website, for example, instrumentation and projects, and here's some of our folks in the field with LiDAR scanners and drones and Street View, collecting perishable data from natural hazard impacts for infrastructure systems. The first thing we do for all of our users is we push all of that raw data up to DesignSafe. And the way that works is we set up a project for the PIs that work with the Rapid facility if they haven't set up a project already. So we set up a project for the overall research project. It's a project that lives in the data depot on DesignSafe. We organize a set of folders, usually by instrument, and then subfolders by date. And that's where the raw data, it's really a raw data dump from all of our instruments, gets pushed to DesignSafe. So you might have a folder full of images from a UAS flight, and they're just going to be pictures like the ones shown here. They're not processed in any sort of way. They're just the raw data that moves there. And of course, the raw data depends on instrument type. And some of the raw data may require proprietary software to work with that our users may not even have access to. Of course, they can work with us and we can help them. We usually have access to all of that software. But that raw data, may be often in a proprietary format. So then, after that raw data is up there, we begin working on processing of the data. And that's really Karen, who's going to walk us through HazMapper and all of this stuff in a minute. That's really her main job at the Rapid facility, is to assist users with processing and often do preliminary processing herself to get the collected data into usable, shareable, and kind of functional formats. That can include things like finding Opus solutions for GPS points, creating structure from motion derived point clouds from UAS images, registering LiDAR point clouds together for a particular site, creating orthomosaics, creating street view, and pushing those to mapillary and many others, depending on the instruments and the data types that were collected. I'm showing you a few examples of kind of processed data sets here. Those then processed data sets vary by data type, but they are in formats. We try really hard to make sure that those processed data sets are not in proprietary formats, but are in formats that are accessible more broadly. Those then get pushed, as Karen's going to show, into a process data deliverable that is within that project in the data depot and DesignSafe. We then produce HazMapper maps that map out where all of these data deliverables are within the world. So where they were collected and the geospatial rendering. And that's what we're going to go through with you today, is actually the production of those HazMapper maps afterwards. Now, I want to emphasize the stuff in the middle is that after we kind of process the data, we push it all to DesignSafe. After that, it's really up to you to publish the data and maximize its impact. Publishing the data, you get a DOI, and that really will help maximize data reuse and help maximize the impact of that data down the road. DesignSafe and the Rapid can, of course, help you through that process, and that's part of what this webinar is all about, in addition to exploring HazMapper. So we're going to work, Karen's going to work through the process of developing HazMapper maps and kind of showing you the data publication process for field data, all in terms of one data set that is already published and publicly available. That's kind of the featured project that we're showing here. This is a data set from a reconnaissance of the Camp wildfires. The wildfires occurred in late 2018, and the reconnaissance was largely conducted in spring 2019. The project PIs were Erica Fisher at Oregon State, Sarah Hamida at Stony Brook University, and Hussam Mahmoud at Colorado State University. And you can see the NSF grant number. They had a rapid grant to do this reconnaissance, as well as additional funding from Natural Hazard Center Quick Response Grant at Colorado Boulder, and from the Oregon State University Cascadia Lifelines program. And I do want to thank Erica. She provided a bunch of slides and information for us to kind of present to you this data set and help us use it to demonstrate the power that's been built up with HazMapper and with data publication on DesignSafe. So this this overall project was interested in documenting the structural and non-structural damage to schools and hospitals within Paradise, California. They wanted to identify commonalities in damage, both structural and non-structural, that prevented the reopening of individual school or healthcare facilities. They wanted to document the wildland-urban interface mitigation that was performed at each of the schools within Paradise prior to the wildfire. They wanted to investigate the role of the hospitals and the schools in the recovery of Paradise, and investigate whether the density of damaged structures was an indicator for the presence of contaminants in water samples or for the occurrence of backflow within a water distribution system during a wildfire. So lots of fantastic objectives for the overall research project. The data that was collected, using RAP that includes images as well as some questionnaires that were completed, really just documenting the instrumentation, locations and setups. There were several UAS flights around structures, so lots of UAS imagery, lots of LiDAR, particularly focused on probably a dozen individual structures. Street view was taken over several repeat trips to document both the initial damage and the recovery of Paradise, California. And then there were a bunch of interviews that were conducted. The data that is published in the data set you're going to look at and work with includes raw data, all the raw data, but that we leave out when we publish the raw data any interviews or street view, because those unprocessed street view images do not contain facial blurring and license plate blurring, so that raw street view data is not included in the published data set. What is also published is the processed point clouds from both UAS flights and from LiDAR, orthomosaics from UAS, and data processing reports from the rapid facility, and a whole bunch of associated metadata that goes along with all of those different pieces of data. One of the structures that we're going to focus in on in kind of the next piece of the webinar is the destruction of a Safeway grocery store in Paradise. And the image to the right shows just a photo of what we're going to work with in point cloud form later on. So you can keep it in mind, in particular, that column up near the front, and then the masonry walls that kind of frame this portion of the building. Those will be clear and visible in the point cloud we're going to work with later. So just to highlight this data set, it is already published. It's on DesignSafe. There's a DOI associated with it. I also want to highlight that there are significant and impactful publications that have already resulted from this work from Erica and the whole research group, and 3 of the papers are listed there. There's a 4th one that I couldn't quite fit on the slide that you can find via Google. And then I want to lastly draw your attention to the really high resolution point cloud that is shown in the image here on the right. That is a screenshot from the full resolution point cloud from the LiDAR scans of that Safeway structure. What we're going to work with later is a decimated version of this. So just keep in mind when we're seeing the decimated version later on that the full resolution version is quite detailed as shown here. So now I'm going to turn it over to Karen, and she's going to carry us through working through publication of this data set and take us through HazMapper. So Karen Dudinsky.
All right, thank you, Jeff. So before we get into the hands-on portion of the webinar, I'm going to quickly walk through the published data set on DesignSafe and its curation and publication process. So on DesignSafe, this is the published project, and it first appears with the mission on the bottom, a mission. Thank you. So labeled with HazMapper map, each project has a HazMapper associated with it. So to access the HazMapper map, you will open this pop-up and enter your credentials if necessary. And then for the mission, to get the individual data files, you will open the mission, and a mission has its own separate DOI. If you're doing multiple trips to a reconnaissance site, each mission will be a trip, and that will all have its own DOI. So in this case, there's just one trip. So there's one mission for the Camp Wildfire reconnaissance. And then within the mission, we have separate collections, and the collections are divided by data collection site. In this case, we have schools and hospitals and the Safeway supermarket. And so within each of these collections, there is further subfolders to divide the data. SFM is structure from motion, and those are point clouds from the drone. And TLS folder is terrestrial laser scanner. Those are also point clouds. And the imagery folder includes scan position images from the scanners, as well as orthomosaics taken from the drone. And the metadata documents show the processing reports for each of the steps that we did to get these final deliverable data. So this is the published view, but if you are the PI and want to make this data set publicly available, you're going to have a different view. So to access that view, this is just me stepping through, and I'm going to go through it. It may be a little quick at first, but this is recorded, so you can go back and look at this step. But to access the project as a project member, you will go to your My Project tab. It's gonna log in real quick again. Okay, I'm gonna go back to My Projects tab. And I'm going to open this project for Camp Wildfire. And if you are the PI and you'd like to add project members to the project, you will just go to this edit project URL link on the top right-hand corner. And within this, you can search for the user's DesignSafe login and add them to the project. And once you are a project member, you will see these 3 different views: working directory, curation directory, and publication preview. And working directory is all the data that's uploaded to the project through Globus, typically for the larger data files. And the Rapid provided data is in 4 folders: raw data, processing, deliverables, and metadata. And the raw data, as Jeff mentioned, is divided into equipment subfolders. And within the equipment subfolders, it's divided by date folders if you go back to the location, if you collect data over multiple dates. And the processing folder within the working directory has the sub-step between the raw data and the deliverables. So those are the processing steps, and those are divided by the software type used to process the data. So those are the sub-steps, and those are not typically published with the data sets, and so those are the subsection. But if you are a project member, you will be able to access those. And the third folder is a deliverables folder, and this is divided by the location subfolders. So within the subfolders, if you remember from the publicated preview, they are divided by imagery and point clouds. So once all the data is uploaded to the project in the working directory, you can start the curation process to upload and make it publicly available. So we'll open this curation directory tab, and you'll have to populate missions and collections. So a mission, as I mentioned, is the overall container for one trip where you are collecting data, and it has its separate DOI. So to add a mission, you just go to this URL under the 1, and I already have it populated from a previous project, from previously publishing it, but you just step through each of these steps, add a title where the date of the mission was, and you can assign authorship, and then provide a detailed description of why you looked at the structures you did and the methods used to gather the data. So once you go through that and update the fields, you can click Add Mission, and it will be added on the bottom. If you need to make edits, you can simply click the Edit button at the bottom of the mission. So once you have added all your missions, you will then create collections, which will hold the subfolder data within the mission. And Rapid is divided by the data collection sites. So I created a separate collection for each of the locations, as well as a collection to host the raw data separately, as well as a collection for deployment documents. And it's a similar process where in this case, we are using the engineering geosciences collection for the data, and you go through and fill in the fields for title, observation type, collection, who collected the data. And this drop-down menu, you can choose exactly what equipment you use to collect the data. And once again, provide some context as to why you selected that data collection site and any notable features within it. So once you're done with that, you can click add collection and it'll be added to the bottom. Similarly, you can edit or delete collections at the bottom. And once you have all your missions and collections created, you have to relate them together to set up the file structure in the published project. So you will go to this third step, relate data. And in the relate data, it is a drop down where you just have the overall mission. If you have multiple missions, there'll be multiple listed, and you use the drop down to click the collections and they'll automatically be tied to the mission. So now that the data is all related, you have to place the data from the deliverables and the raw data into the collections, because right now they're empty containers. So to tag the the files within the different collections, you can simply go into one of the folders. So in this case, wrap data is automatically created as a separate folder within the project, and that is classified as raw data. So I simply clicked the collection type, set it as raw data, and now that is within the raw data collection. And similarly for the equipment raw data, I added the collection tags for each of the different equipment types. So that is now under the raw data collection. For the deliverable data, I did not label the overall collection sites because that would be redundant since the collection is already the data collection site. So I navigate within the folder for each of the data sites, and I tag the folders for imagery. So in this case, this is a Achieve Charter School we're within. So I tagged it with the Achieve Charter School collection, and I added a tag for image. And these tags, you can create your own unique tag, or you could use one of the pre-populated tags. And these tags are important to include because it allows researchers to find your data more easily when they're searching for the tagged keywords in the project search bar. So if you do not include the tags, it may be more difficult for your data to be found by others. And for the point clouds, I navigate into the folder just because there are multiple types of point clouds. And similarly, I will assign the overall SFM, TLS, and metadata folders to the collection for the Achieve Charter School and assign those their respective tags. And then once you're done with the overall curation process, you can click on the final publication preview tab. And within the publication preview tab, you can see how the published data set will appear to your users, which is what we noticed earlier when we were looking at the final published data set. So I'm going to drop the published data set into the chat right now for the link so you can all take a look at it. And also at this time, I would encourage you to sign into your DesignSafe logins with this top right-hand corner. And I forgot to mention previously, once you are in the My Project, to physically get the data set published, the final step is under the publication preview to click this green button, publish, version, and amend. So if you're publishing it for the first time, it'll just be the publish option. But if you're going to add more data and more analysis later on, you can version it and create a second version. It'll still be the same DOI, but in the published data set, you'll notice here that there's a drop down with version, and there's version 1 and version 2. So in this case, is republished with new data. So if you toggle between version 1 and version 2, you'll notice that version 1 has less data than the version 2. And that third option, amend, is if you're just adding a new project number to the published data set.
So I'm following along, Karen. I don't know if you're getting any feedback from people because no one has cameras on. So I just wanted to let you know I'm with you. The link worked.
Okay, thank you. All right, and if everyone's logged into their DesignSafe accounts, I'll go through this part a little slowly. So if you still haven't logged in, there's still time. But now we're going to get into our interactive portion of the webinar. And we're going to first start with accessing the data that we're going to put into our HazMapper map. So first, if you're not already logged in, we'll log in to your DesignSafe account. And once you're logged in, we're going to start. If you're not already in the data depot, we will go to the workspace button and then select data depot. And then once we are inside the data depot, we are going to create a folder to store the data that we're copying from the published data sets for our HazMapper map. So to add a folder, we're going to click this blue button, add underneath data depot, and select new folder. And we're going to give it an intuitive name. So I'm just going to name it webinar data. In this case, if you're having a research project, you'll want to make that intuitive. And then I'm just going to click create folder on the bottom. And that should appear in your My Data folder. Give everyone a second. Okay, now that we have our webinar data folder, we can go in and actually collect data to put into this folder. So we're going to return to the left-hand navigation, and we're going to go down to this Publish tab and click the Publish tab. And we are going to be gathering data from the Camp Wildfire. So in this case, I'm just going to search for the known author, Fisher, and click Enter. And it should be the second one that appears, Camp Wildfires Reconnaissance Spring 2019. And then once you find the data set, you could also use other keywords if you weren't sure about the author by doing keyword wildfire, and it should be listed within the projects for published data sets. So I'm going to open the Camp Wildfire Reconnaissance project, and this is the view that I showed you earlier of the published data set. And now we're going to find the point cloud data of that Safeway supermarket as Jeff discussed. So to go in and get that file, we're going to first expand this mission drop down. And we're going to navigate to the Safeway supermarket collection. Then once we have the Safeway supermarket collection opened is within the terrestrial laser scanner folder. So we're going to click the TLS folder. And then we separate the data into LAZ combined, which is the overall scan positions, into one model. LAZ individual and E57 individual folders are for the individual scan position locations. In this case, we are going to use the LAZ combined folder. And we'll see two different point clouds within this folder. And you'll see that the sizes are pretty different. So the smaller one is the 3 centimeter LAZ and LAZ, and the difference is that that was downsampled, so the spacing between the points are at a minimum of 3 centimeter interval. So there's a lot fewer points than the full model. So for HazMapper, we will want to select the 3 centimeter resolution one because HazMapper is used as a light platform for visualization and analysis. But if you want the more in-depth analysis for programs such as Cloud Compare, you could download the full model. So in this case, we're going to click the checkbox next to the 3 centimeter LAZ, which is the 15.2 megabyte one. And once we have it selected, we're going to click this copy button at the top right-hand corner. And when you click the copy button, you should see the pathway for my data and the folder that you created. And next to the folder you created, you just want to click the blue copy button, and that will import the data to that folder. And there'll be the notice at the bottom saying that the copy operation was successful. Okay, and then once that is uploaded, we're going to now collect images from the RAP data set to show more context of one of the damage assessments that was done. So to get back to the main view on this file path, we're going to click PRJ-2277V2 to get back to the main screen. And then for the RAP data, we're once again going to expand the mission, and we're going to go to the raw data collection this time. So expand the raw data collection, and we'll see the RAP folder. And so we'll click into the RAP folder. And RAP data is automatically uploaded to DesignSafe by user ID for DesignSafe. So this data was collected with the UW Rapid DesignSafe ID. We're going to click into the UW Rapid folder. And then within the folder, there are a number of JPEGs listed. So in this case, I'm just going to select a few of them. You can select multiple JPEGs, but I'm just going to select these first 3 photos. And like we did with the point cloud, I'm going to click this copy button at the top right hand of the screen. And you'll see that all 3 files are listed at the top left, and I'm going to copy it into the webinar data folder for the project. And once again, I'll say on the bottom that the copy operation, oh, okay, it looks like one of them failed because there's the red on the bottom, but 2 of them were successful. And we can check those in just a second. But once you have all the data that you want copied to the folder following the steps that we just outlined, it's important to record the DOI for this project in the citation so we know where we got the data from in the future when we are citing our work. So we will return back to the main screen, PRJ-2277V2. We'll reopen the mission. And then the citation is this blue button located next to the DOI within the mission box. And you'll see if you click on the citation that a pop-up will appear with the text describing the citation. So if you directly click this download citation, that will bring up the XML file for the citation. And if you want it in that format, then you can do it that way and save it to your computer as a text document. But in this case, I'm just going to copy the entire citation because I would like it in this format, and I'm copying it on my keyboard. Then I'm just going to open a standard notepad document so I can save it to my computer in the text format. But feel free to save it the other way as an XML. I'm just going to save this to my downloads. And I'll give everyone a second to copy it over. Okay, and then once you have your citation copied over and all your data that you would like, you can return back to the My Data tab underneath the Data Depot Add button. So I'm just going to click My Data. And I'm going to click in the folder that I created previously for the data. And in here, I see that my point cloud was successful in uploading and that 2 of the photos uploaded. So there was the one error, which I can go back to the data set and recopy it over in that case. So now we want to add the citation to this folder for future reference. So to add this citation, we're going to click the blue Add button underneath the Data Depot. And within the Add button, we're going to click File Upload. In this case is a small text document, so we can upload it directly through Data Depot. But if you had a large file or more than 25 files, you'd have to use another transfer tool such as Globus. But in this case, I'm just going to click File Upload, and I'm going to navigate to the path of my citation that I saved within my download. And you'll see it listed as ready for upload, and it's uploading to the webinar data folder I created. All looks good, so I'm going to click Begin Upload. And for mine, it was pretty instantaneous, and there's a green message at the bottom saying that it was successful. And now that we have data populated within our My Data folder, it's time for us to create the HazMapper map. So to access the HazMapper map application, we are going to go back up to the workspace navigation tools and applications drop down within the workspace. So I'm going to click Tools and Applications under Workspace. And you'll get the screen showing all the tools and applications. The HazMapper is located within the 3rd tab, Visualization. So I'm going to click that and then click HazMapper 2.0. And then to launch the HazMapper application, you just click the blue button. And you'll be asked to enter your credentials for your DesignSafe account. So we'll add those in. And then you should see this HazMapper interface. So if this is your first HazMapper map, you will probably not see any of these projects listed. If you're already on a project where you have access, they will be listed here. And to create a HazMapper map for the first time, you're going to click the create a new map on the upper right-hand corner. And that will bring you to this pop-up for creating a map. And the first step you want to do is ensure that the link save location on the right-hand side is in the folder you created with your data. So it's in the My Data tab, and then I'm just going to click into the webinar data to highlight it. And you can see that is in the correct path on this left-hand side in the save location. And once you have the link location saved, you can give it an intuitive name and description. So when you give it a name, it'll automatically update the custom file name. So I'm just gonna say Camp Wildfire Webinar Map. And you'll see that it automatically inputs a custom file name. And to save the data map, you'll have to provide a description. So okay. And this option you can select sometimes depending on the project. So that will automatically upload folders such as photos to the DesignSafe HazMapper map. In most cases, I just manually upload it because sometimes if there are photos you do not want uploaded, that could be sensitive information. You just want to make sure you're doing the check to make sure something that's sensitive is not being uploaded to your map. So I personally do not sync the folder, but you have the option to. And once you have everything filled out for your map, I'm going to click the blue submit button, and you'll see that you're taken to the map interface. And your map may look different from mine. You may have a satellite imagery in the background, or you may have a road layer. So to get us all on the same page, we're going to go to this layers tab on the left-hand side. And you'll see that there is a toggle for the default satellite and road option. So to bring those, you can just quickly toggle them on and off just to get those back into the view. So I'll leave it on the satellite imagery. And I'll pause here a second in case anyone's a little bit behind.
Darren, we had a question coming in. Are you allowed to put spaces in the HazMapper name, not name?
For the link or the overall name, yes, you may. Okay, so now that we're probably all on the same page, we're going to add our wrap imagery photos. So we're going to return back to the Assets tab on the left-hand side of the screen. And you will see that it says Import from DesignSafe for a button. So we're going to click that. And it should automatically open up to the My Data directory, but if not, select My Data, and we're going to reopen the folder where we copied our data over. And in this case, you can select multiple folders, photos by just doing Control-Shift, holding down and selecting multiple, and you'll see those are highlighted. And once you have the highlighted images you want selected, then you can click Import. And at the top, you can notice that the allowed file types are shape, JPEG, JSON, GeoJSON, GPX as of now. So I'm going to import those. You'll see the green box saying that the import is started. And since I only had 2 images, they loaded fairly quickly, and they're noted by the 2 on the map. Notice that those are located in California, so they're located correctly. And the 2, if you zoom in a little bit, you can see the individual photos. And if you click on those photo icons, there'll be a pop-up to show you the image and its general position, as well as its geometry point type. And you can click the other one as well to toggle between them. And if you have images that are far apart and you want to toggle between them, you can also select the images on the assets list on the tab on the left-hand side. So now we have our wrap data incorporated. We can move on and add our point cloud of the Safeway. So to add a point cloud, we're going to go to the point cloud tab on the left-hand side and click this add button. And that will bring this pop-up for the point cloud. So typically when Rapid is providing a HazMapper map, I give it a name to describe the study site that I'm uploading. So in this case, it's the Safeway. And then I include the collection date. So if you have multiple point clouds of one area for multiple dates, you can toggle between them and see how the point cloud may have changed over time. And this is not needed, but if you'd like to map a different attribute field, so instead of RGB colors, if you'd like to map intensity or another field, you can use the Potree converter. And with that, it's all documented with the open source Potree on GitHub. And you can customize it to import the point cloud. So I'm going to click the submit button, and then that creates the, it's kind of like a container to hold the point cloud LAS LAZ file. So the point cloud's not actually within this, but it has the container to hold the file. So to actually add the file, I'm going to click the add LAS/LAZ, and that will bring another pop-up. And once again, we will navigate to the data folder where we copied over our point cloud and select it by highlighting it and clicking import. And note on the top that the file type allowed is LAS and LAZ as of now. So would not be able to bring those E57s in for individual locations, but you could bring in the provided LAZ ones. So I'm going to import that. And you'll see the green box saying that it is importing. And you just have to ensure that the point cloud does have a coordinate system tied to it, because if there's no coordinate system, then it will not be able to be properly mapped for HazMapper. So it says it was completed, and sometimes you may just need to zoom out. If you're really not sure where it is, you can return back to the Assets tab. It is now listed as an asset, and you can click on it, and it'll jump you right to the point cloud. And so the point cloud is shown as a blue box over the area of interest, and there'll be a pop-up to show a preview of what the point cloud looks like, as well as basic information of where it's located. And once you have the point cloud, we can actually go in and do some basic analysis of the point cloud with Potree Viewer. So once the point cloud is selected, we can click this blue view button, and that will open a new window for Potree Viewer. And you should see the Safeway point cloud. And to navigate, you can hold the left mouse button down and drag it, and that will allow you to rotate the point cloud. You can zoom in and out by using the zoom mouse scroll. And then to pan the point cloud, you can hold down the right mouse button and drag it back and forth to pan around. And the first steps we can do to help us better see this point cloud is we can adjust the point budget on the top left underneath appearance. So in this case, if you go far to the right with the higher point budget, you won't see much change because this is the decimated point cloud. So depending on how many points there are, you may not see a change. But if you go down to the really low point budget, you can see how the points are larger to make up for the lower point budget. So I'm just gonna pick somewhere in the middle to visualize my point cloud. And then to help with depth perception of your point cloud, you can enable the eye dome lighting, which is this checkbox right here underneath the appearance. And what that does is add a black outline to the points, and that can help you better visualize your point cloud. So similarly, you can use the scroll buttons to adjust the thickness of the black outline for the points, and that you can just play around and see what you think helps you look at the point cloud better. And it's gonna, it's good to me. And the last appearance tool I'm going to go over is this splat quality. And what this does, it helps you with texture. So it's typically on standard, and when we're using the clip tool later in a few minutes, it must be on standard for it to be properly clipped. But just to show the demonstration of high quality, you can see how there is a little bit of a change between standard and high quality to help you smooth out the features a little bit and may help you better identify objects in your point cloud. So I'm just going to return that to standard just for my purposes. And once you are happy with your appearance of the point cloud, we can go into the tools. So first I'm going to scroll down on the left-hand side, and I'm going to go to this clipping box underneath tools. And to have the clipping tool work properly, there's the hover pop-up that says you must be in the orthographic camera mode. So I'm going to click orthographic underneath the navigation to get me within that view. And now that I'm in that view, I'm going to clip this point cloud. So I'm just focusing on the building, and I'm going to click this third tool under clipping, and it'll be highlighted. And then to get the clipping box, I'm going to click one point to the upper left of my box, holding my left mouse down and dragging it while holding the left mouse down to capture my study area of interest. And once I like my bounding box, I'm going to let go of my left mouse, and you'll see that is highlighted in red because of the clip task that we denoted. So I would just like to look at the data within this box. So I'm going to change the clip task to the inside, and you'll see that the area outside the box will disappear. And now that I have my area of interest, I'm just going to click outside the box to have the controls go away. But if you wanted to return to your original clip box, you could click the X at the bottom of the navigation window, and that will bring you back to the original point cloud. Or you could reopen the Potree viewer to get to a full fresh slate. But in this case, I have just my study area of interest. And now we can go into a little more of the other measurement tools. So for the measurement tools, I just want to note that global registration accuracy may be unknown for some point clouds, and the metadata will be included for the project within DesignSafe to explain the accuracy of the scans, but the point cloud may not be entirely lined up with the coordinate system assigned to it. So you want to take the absolute measurement location of the point positions with a grain of salt, and know that it's up to you to ensure the accuracy, but the relative measurements between points can generally be okay because it's dependent on the scanner's precision and registration and less on the global registration. So what that means is just be cautious when you're using this second point measurement tool, because these positions may not be entirely accurate to each of the points being displayed. But the relative measurements between points for measuring how tall a wall is, those ones are generally supported. So to measure the length of a wall, I'm going to go to either, you could do this distance measurement if you want the distance between objects, or you could click this fourth tool, which I'm going to click, which is height measurement. And once I have it selected, you'll see the red dot appear, and you can click on your first point. So I'm going to measure this post here on the left hand side. I'm clicking the top, and then it's a little hard to see because the box is over it, but on the same point you click, you're going to hold your left mouse down and drag it to the next point that you want to measure the distance between. So I'm going to do about here, which I think is about the ground. And if I rotate the point cloud a little bit to the side, I can see if there's actually referencing the points that I wanted it to. So it looks like it is about in the straight line. Just careful when you're doing the measurements, because you might accidentally be selecting a point behind one that you think you are. So it's good to always drag around the point cloud after you select the points to make sure it's actually the points that you are intending it to measure, instead of points that may be a few meters behind the one that you were intending. But in this case, the rough estimate of this pole we see is about 3.5 meters. So for initial exploratory purposes, it gets you a good idea of the features that you're looking at. And there are other tools to explore around in here on the left, but I'm not going to go through all those at this time, but feel free to go through them after this webinar to explore more. So I'm going to return back to the HazMapper map. So that's just the original tab to the left. And the next step we're going to do is add a layer from a hosted imagery service. Rapid Data, we provide ortho mosaics as tiled URL layers, and we host those on our ArcGIS Online account. But you could use other imagery hosted layers. So I'm going to walk us through how to add those. So I'm just going to close this pop-up for the point cloud because I no longer need it. And I'm going to open the layers tab on the left-hand side. And back in the original layers, we're going to add this green box above the two default layers to add a new one. And we'll get this pop-up that says create a tile layer. And let me get the URL in the chat for us to upload. And I'll send that to everyone. And to upload this hosted tile layer, we're going to change the import method to manual. And then within manual, we're going to select the server type as ArcGIS for the hosted rapid imagery. And similar to the point cloud, we want to give it an intuitive name so we know what the layer is that we're looking at. So in this case, I provided the URL for a school called our Achieve Charter School. Type that in. And once again, if you know the date, it's helpful to include the date when you're switching between layers. So I think it was 2019-3/28. And then you will just simply paste the URL that I posted in the chat as the tile server URL. And I'll leave that up for a second. And once you have all those fields imported, you can click the blue submit button. And you'll see that it was added already very quickly. And it may take a second for you to find it. So in that case, it may be helpful to toggle off the satellite imagery so you can actually see the image that you uploaded. And you can see that the opacity it's a little transparent. So to alter that, you can go to the second icon next to the pencil and the trash can, and you can use the slider bar to drag it to 100% view. And when you do those changes and want to keep them persistent, you can save the layer options. So that will be the default view when people look at your HazMapper map. And you can see that it is lined up with the 2 wrap photos that I uploaded earlier. And then also within the tile layers, you can add layers from QMS, quick mapping services, and web mapping services. So to add those layers, you can open up the green plus box under tile layers again. And then the import method we'll use as QMS search. And within that, if you have a feature or a layer that you have in mind, you can search for it. So I'm just going to search for road. And when I click search, I see that the second one is Esri World Topo. So I'm interested in the topographic map, and I'm going to add that to my map. So I'm going to add the green checkbox button next to this layer to add it to my map. And you can see when you zoom out a little bit, and if I toggle that on and off with the eye icon, you can see how the topography is now added to our map. And then the final data set that I'm going to talk about adding to the HazMapper map, which we will not do right now for time purposes, but there is the ability to add your street view data. And within the street view data, this is uploaded through the Mapillary platform. And what this platform does is that it makes your data publicly available, because there are privacy blurring steps taken to blur out public and sensitive information and private information such as license plates and people's faces. So what this does is allow you to publish the data from the street view, as opposed to not being able to publish the raw data in your published data set. So this is another way to allow you to publish this data. And the final steps, once you have all your data imported, you can take a quick look at it through the filter button on the left-hand side, and that just helps you toggle on and off your different layers if you just want to double check what you have imported, or depending on how many files you have. And once everything looks good and you're ready to make it publicly available, there's this this final button on the left-hand side called Manage, and there are 4 different tabs. So if you click on this third Public tab, you can make your map public. And what that does is allow, it provides a URL for your map that you are able to share with others so they can access your map. And if you make any edits, this is the file location that is saved. And if you need to add members, there's the member option for DesignSafe if you're adding them to your overall project. But yeah, that concludes our webinar. Are there any remaining questions about HazMapper that we can answer for you?
I have a question that orthomosaic didn't show up for me when I
Oh,
created that layer. I don't know if anyone else had that same problem, but I got everything else to work. The point cloud and the images show up fine.
I oh, go ahead.
Can we do it again?
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
I made a
I'll pull it up.
mistake too.
Okay, yeah. If there was a mistake made, we can re-show that. So I'm going back to the layers tab, clicking the add button, and then selecting the import method as manual. And then within the manual, I'm clicking the server type and changing that to be ArcGIS.
That's right.
And then, yeah, so since we host it on the ArcGIS online platform, we want to select that server type, but that will just vary based on the platform that you're using for your imagery. And then you can just post the URL from the chat and then give it the name. So I'll give it an abbreviated version to differentiate them, but yeah, it should be manual ArcGIS, and you can check that within the URL. It says ArcGIS for tiles, and then the name, and then it should hopefully work for you now.
I got it. I didn't change
Okay.
the server type. I left it as the default.
Nice. Okay, I'm glad it worked.
Another thing I'll mention, when I did mine, I imported everything from the published data. So I didn't copy the data first. It's a little clunky to find it because you have to know the project number. You can't browse by title or something like that. But I did want to mention that it's possible to import data directly from published. I don't know. Have you done that before, Karen?
Yeah, I was testing it earlier, but I was wanting to show people how to do like multiple
Yeah.
projects in case they wanted to like have it in one folder. But yeah, that's definitely an option too, to do it through the publish view.
I think most people do want to copy, but like that one point cloud was almost a gigabyte, right? So
Yeah.
import it from where it is.
Mhm.
This was great. Thanks.
So I just posted in the chat a link to the public version of the full HazMapper map that we prepared for this project, or that Karen prepared for the project. Just showing all of the data that was collected. And this isn't all the data that was collected, but it does show multiple point clouds for all of the different structures that were done in detail, either with LiDAR or with aerial flights, and then structure from motion. Lots of the photos that were collected. There's some street view tracks as well indicated, just to give you an idea of the full extent of the data set. And again, it's not all of the data. It is the processed and then decimated point clouds that make it here. There's several orthos overlaid as well. Can you like put it on roads?
Yeah.
Just so it's like, because the orthos stand out like really, really well. Oh no, we can. Yeah, that's right. Never mind. So anyway, the orthos are there, so you can see the burned out buildings in the background here. You zoom in a little tighter. So there's lots of, I think, examples, and so what we want to emphasize is that when the Rapid kind of finishes processing a particular project, we hand one of these maps over to the project PI, and hopefully that becomes part of the public record and published portion of the data set as well.
Gotta say, wow. Honestly, seeing DesignSafe, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and then seeing what all the tools can do now, yeah, it's very impressive. You all have done an incredible job. So, are there any other questions for our presenters, or for any of the other DesignSafe team that might be online? All right, with that, I'm going to go and take the screen sharing over. Fantastic. Hey, once again, thank you all so much. So as it was mentioned before, this is being recorded and it will be showing up in our training archive very shortly as soon as the video gets curated. To get to our training archive, you can either follow that link, designsafe-ci.org/learning-center-training, or go to Learning Center on the Design Safe menu. And then in training, you'll have the training archive. And then there's also a link to our YouTube channel for any of the past Design Safe webinars that you may have missed that you want to catch up on. Once again, here is the QR code that leads to our survey. The link, the direct link was posted in chat. I think, Scott, you probably have that. You can post that again if you like. Please take the survey. Please leave your comments. We really appreciate it. These webinars, we try and put together webinars that interest the Design Safe community. And we'd love to hear your suggestions on some future webinars that we might put through. With that, one final thanks to Karen, Jeff, and Joe, and the rest of the Rapid Facility team. You all have done an incredible job partnering with Design Safe, putting together these tools that, yeah, kind of left me a little speechless on this, to be quite honest. Thank you so much for everything you all done, and thank you so much for your time today and presenting a great hands-on tutorial on using the HazMapper and the Potree tools on Design Safe. So thank you very much. Also, of course, I'd like to thank our Ellen Rathje, Tim Cockrell, Scott Brandenburg, Dan, and Hedda, Tracy, and Natalie, who always get these things organized so well. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can find us on Slack. You can post these to the general, or you can email training@designsafe-ci.org, or fill out a ticket if you have any comments or questions that you'd like to have for us or for the Rapid Facility team. Once again, thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. Scott, do you have any final words?
Yeah, I'll just say I published it to and looking at the map on my phone now, right? Testing it out after making my map public, which is really a useful tool for field work, I think.
Excellent.
It is very cool. All right. Hey, once again, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you.